It started like any other day, but it quickly turned into a nightmare. My daughter, just running errands in the neighborhood, had no idea she was about to become the target of something much bigger than her. A confrontation with an HOA cop took an unexpected and dangerous turn when he pulled a gun on her, thinking she was just another unsuspecting resident. What he didn't know was that this wasn't just any ordinary woman walking by. My daughter isn't someone who's easily intimidated. She's a Navy SEAL instructor, trained to handle high-pressure situations, even when things get out of control. The man had no idea who he was dealing with, and in that moment, her military training kicked in. But things didn't stop there. What followed was a tense standoff, and the situation escalated in ways no one could have predicted. Was this just a misunderstanding or something far more serious? Why would an HOA enforcer, of all people, feel the need to pull a gun on a civilian? And how did my daughter manage to stay calm in a moment that could have turned deadly? Stay tuned to find out how this confrontation unfolded and what happens when the real story behind this encounter is finally revealed. Trust me, you won't want to miss the rest. To understand how we got here, you need to know a little about the neighborhood. It's one of those places with strict rules, gated, controlled, and where the HOA runs everything with an iron fist. The cop was more of a self-appointed enforcer than an official lawman, but he had the power to make people's lives miserable if he didn't like something. And today, for some reason, my daughter had caught his attention. She's used to dealing with difficult situations, but this was different. He started by approaching her, demanding to know why she was parked where she was. The rules were clear in his eyes, and there was no room for exceptions. But that's when things took a weird turn. As soon as he saw the military decals on her car, his attitude shifted. It wasn't the respect you'd expect, though. It was more like he saw a target, someone to challenge, someone he could bully. Maybe he thought she was just another entitled person in a nice neighborhood, unaware of the force standing in front of him. As he started to get more aggressive, my daughter calmly stepped back. But then he crossed a line, pulling a gun without warning. The tension in the air was thick, and for a moment, no one knew what was going to happen next. What did he really want? What was going through his mind when he made that move? Just as the tension reached its breaking point, something unexpected happened. From the corner of my daughter's eye, she spotted movement. Another car was approaching, slowly rolling down the street toward them. For a split second, I thought it was just a neighbor, but then I recognized the vehicle. It was the HOA's main office van. There was no way this was a coincidence. They were showing up now, and my heart sank as I realized they might have been monitoring the situation the entire time. The man holding the gun didn't seem to notice the van at first. His attention was locked on my daughter, still trying to intimidate her, demanding she move or face consequences. But as the van rolled closer, I heard the unmistakable sound of another door opening. The man's grip on his weapon tightened, and I could feel the rising tension like a storm waiting to break. And then the real shock came. A woman stepped out of the van, dressed in a sharp suit, definitely not your typical HOA employee. She walked toward the scene with an authority that immediately made everyone stop. The man with the gun hesitated, his eyes flickering to her, uncertainty now creeping in. What was going on? This wasn't just some random worker. She was clearly in charge. Just as the tension reached its breaking point, something unexpected happened. From the corner of my daughter's eye, she spotted movement. Another car was approaching, slowly rolling down the street toward them. For a split second, I thought it was just a neighbor, but then I recognized the vehicle. It was the HOA's main office van. There was no way this was a coincidence. They were showing up now, and my heart sank as I realized they might have been monitoring the situation the entire time. The man holding the gun didn't seem to notice the van at first. His attention was locked on my daughter, still trying to intimidate her, demanding she move or face consequences. But as the van rolled closer, I heard the unmistakable sound of another door opening. The man's grip on his weapon tightened, and I could feel the rising tension like a storm waiting to break. And then the real shock came. A woman stepped out of the van, dressed in a sharp suit, definitely not your typical HOA employee. She walked toward the scene with an authority that immediately made everyone stop. The man with the gun hesitated, his eyes flickering to her, uncertainty now creeping in. "Is there a problem here?" she asked, her voice cutting through the air with calm precision. The man's posture stiffened, as if he was suddenly caught in a web of his own actions. He didn't respond, his focus still split between my daughter and the newcomer. My daughter's eyes darted to the woman, a flicker of realization passing across her face. Whoever this woman was, she wasn't here to smooth things over. She was here to escalate them, and now the stakes were higher than ever. The woman in the suit took another step forward, her eyes locked on the man with the gun. For a moment, it felt like time stood still. The man's hand wavered, his confidence crumbling as the woman's presence seemed to challenge his entire sense of authority. My daughter, still standing calmly, didn't move a muscle. The standoff continued, but now it was clear. This was no longer just about a simple misunderstanding. Something bigger was unfolding. "Step away from her," the woman said, her tone even but carrying an undeniable power. The man didn't flinch, but you could see his grip loosening on the gun ever so slightly. It was as if he was finally starting to realize he was out of his depth. The woman didn't wait for him to make a move. In one swift motion, she reached into her jacket and pulled out a badge. It wasn't the HOA's standard issue, though. It was a federal badge. "You've made a serious mistake," she continued, her voice now cold and commanding. "I'm investigating your actions. This whole situation has been flagged." The man's face drained of color. The tension that had been building snapped, and the gun dropped from his hand, clattering to the ground with a sound that echoed through the quiet street. But there was more to come. My daughter, still calm, looked over at the woman. "You're the one who flagged him?" she asked, her eyes narrowing in recognition. The woman nodded. "Yes, you see, he's not just an HOA enforcer. He's been illegally monitoring and harassing residents. We've been watching him for weeks." Just as the situation seemed to de-escalate, my daughter's phone buzzed. It was a text. She read it, and her eyes widened. "Wait," she said, looking up sharply at the woman. "You didn't know? The man you just disarmed is my old commander." The shock in the woman's eyes was immediate. "What?" My daughter didn't waste another second. She turned to face the man, her voice steady but filled with cold fury. "You're not getting away this time. It's over." The final twist wasn't just about a rogue HOA cop. It was about something far more dangerous, a web of corruption far deeper than anyone had imagined. The truth was just beginning to come to light, and the fallout was only just starting. The woman's face tightened as she processed the shock of the revelation. My daughter's former commander, the one who had crossed the line, was more deeply involved than anyone realized. This wasn't just a rogue enforcer. He was part of a larger operation, one that preyed on unsuspecting residents. The federal agent, now fully aware of the situation, immediately took control, pulling out handcuffs and cuffing the man without another word. The weight of the moment sank in as the street, once filled with chaos, now stood eerily silent. As the man was led away, the tension in the air finally started to lift. My daughter took a deep breath, the adrenaline slowly fading. She had managed to keep her cool, despite everything. But I could tell the impact of the encounter had shaken her more than she let on. In the end, the situation was resolved, but the story didn't end there. The corruption within the HOA was only a small piece of a much larger puzzle. It became clear that this encounter was the beginning of something bigger, something that would affect more people than just her. The system, the power dynamics, and the way some people used authority for personal gain, it all came crushing down. For my daughter, this wasn't just about standing up to a bully. It was about uncovering the truth and ensuring that people like him would never get away with it again.